Welcome to Tanya Today. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine. It's wonderful, a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. Let us say hello to Davida and to Liba, twins, who are always learning together. Amazing. In New York, welcome. June on the other side of the world in Australia, good evening and welcome. John is with us in North Carolina. Andrea is in Phoenix. Shalom to Robert in Boston. Susan in Scranton, Pennsylvania is with us. Michael in Virginia. Who else? Irma is in St. Martin with us. Katie, good morning to you in Texas. Also in Texas, Tim, welcome. Julie is having a beautiful day in Florida. Who else is here? Lori, welcome. Simcha in Florida, welcome. Gary in Pennsylvania. Clem also in Australia. Usher is in Tennessee with us. Good morning. Rena in Colorado, Boker Tov. Samita, Shalom. I forget from where. We have Greg and Paul in Bakersfield, California. Good morning, bright and early. Gilise, I forgot from where, but good morning. Dino, Boker Tov. Deborah in Kitchener, Ontario, welcome. Eugenia in Calgary, good morning. David in California. Stella, Shalom in Davenport, Florida. Welcome. Jay in Indonesia, ERA or something like that. Welcome. Oh, Jay, actually, it's in Hackney, London. Who else? Michael in Germany. The video's frozen. That's not good. Is anybody else having a problem with the video? Let me know. Instagram we don't have, unfortunately, today. I'm having some problems, technical problems. Which hopefully, well, I don't know if they'll be fixed that quickly. Clubhouse, we have Vilma, Batya, and David, Michelle, Celeste, Lindsay, Eliana, Margot, Norm, Marcy, Tim, Winston, Natalie. Okay, beautiful. We're continuing. We're continuing with the 27th letter. Understanding today, how is it that the righteous, the Zohar says, are more accessible, more found, more available after their passing than when they were physically alive? It's a hard concept to grasp. So hopefully we'll get some clarity today. So Alter Rebbe explains like this. Every human being, and a tzaddik likewise, is their soul is confined, restricted. Maybe 1 second. Tell me if that's better. That it's not getting frozen now. I hope that's better. So, every human being, their soul is contained, restricted by a container called the body. And that's by a righteous person too. Also has that restriction. Also has that limitation. So during their lifetime, remember what animates them. What's their life all about? Faith, love, and awe of God. So the faith, love, and awe of God is not merely for themselves, because they don't live for themselves. It is that we can gain from that, from their faith, their love, their awe of God, that we can have from it. Tell me if it's still choppy, because, well, should be good. So how do we get it during their lifetime to connect to that emotional quality of theirs that comes from their ruach of their soul, from the spirit of their soul? We get it as a minor ray of those attributes. It has to come to us through how they express themselves, through their speaking, or thoughts, because it can affect us through thought. Looks like there are some problems. Clubhouse, I think everything is good, so you might want to try Clubhouse. That's terrible about the reception. Hold on, let me just... Okay, so I guess just some people are having an issue. Okay, thank you for sharing that. So, since we receive a mere reflection of their attributes, right, of their faith, their awe and love of God, a mere ray of it that is coming through what they express through speech, but not just speech, but their thoughts too. We're getting something very limited. And that's why our sages say that it takes 40 years to plummet the depth of the teachings of your master. Right? Now that's what happens during their lifetime. When they pass away, what happens? And this actually happens with everybody. There's a separation of the nephesh level of the soul from the ruach level of the soul. The nephesh level of the soul remains connected to the body. Remains connected to the body. The ruach separates, and the ruach, which has the emotional component of the soul, faith, awe, and love of God, is now in Gan Eden. And therefore, since it's in Gan Eden, first of all, it doesn't have a physical limitation, the soul's emotional attributes, right? It's not limited to a container, the body. So it doesn't have to express itself in order to give of itself that tzaddik of their faith, awe, and love of God. Now that they don't have that restriction, they can give of the essence, and they give of their essence of their ruach level of the soul. That is found where now? In Gan Eden, in Garden of Eden. Now you might say to yourself, well, the Garden of Eden, I mean, that's eons beyond here. So what does it mean that how do we get from there? It's, we're worlds apart. Well, that's a mistake. You know where Gan Eden is? It's right here. But it's a different dimension that we are not privy to. or at least I'm not privy to. Actually, the righteous are. Maybe we'll tell a story later about that. Where do we know this idea? When Jacob, walked into his father Isaac, Yitzchak, to bring the food and to get the blessings from him, the firstborn. It says he walked in with the fragrance and the presence of Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden. It was there with him. So the righteous are attuned to it in this world, because it is in this world. As a matter of fact, even more than that, every good thing that we do in this world, do you know where it gets recorded, where it gets, the impression is made? Not just in this world, but in Gan Eden. But in Gan Eden. It's likewise, God forbid, if we do something bad, we have, of thought, speech, and action, it gets recorded in Gehenna. Gets imprinted there. And that's why when you go through, after 120, you go through Gehenna, you go through a cleansing process, which is necessary. Why? Because that negativity made an imprint, an impression in Gehenna. The good that we did makes its imprint and impression in Gan Eden. Where is Gan Eden? It's right here, in a different dimension. So the tzaddik, after passing, is here. Not removed, but here. In a way that they are not bound to a physical place, that the only way they can have an effect on us is through speech or thought. And in that effect, they're only affecting us with a ray of their emotive disposition, of their faith on love. Once they're in Gan Eden and they don't have that vessel called the body that becomes that deterrent. I don't know if deterrent's the right word, but becomes the interface that we connect to the tzaddik. Now we can get from the essence of their being, the essence of their emotive disposition, getting the essence of it. So we can get the essence of their faith, their love and awe. There's just one thing about that. Is we get we get not a glimmer, but the essence of it. There's only one condition. The only way you can get anything spiritual from anybody is by an abounding love. When you have a love of another, and the more real it is, the more you will gain from that person, from their spirits. The more you will gain from them. The less the love, the less you gain. And therefore, one needs to prepare themselves in order to elicit that spirit of theirs, the ruach level of their soul, after they pass away. Even when they're alive, you need to make that preparation. You need to make that preparedness to be able to receive. But now we're receiving from the essence of their attributes. And one needs to work on themselves to be bound up with the tzaddik. Again, bound up with love, because it is through love how we gain. Tell me if that connection is better now on Facebook. All right. That's the teachings. Let's unpack this a bit. So, again, the point that we've mentioned a couple of times, I think that's really crucial. And that is, the more our lives are made up of things of the spirit, things that are can express in the physical, but they're beyond the physical, then that remains forever. And the imprint and the effect of that. So you can do act of loving kindness to somebody by giving them something of material. That's a material value, and that's amazing. That's a kindness. That's tzedakah. That's a chesed, an act of loving kindness, and that can live on. Absolutely. But of course, if we do an act of loving kindness that is of the spirit for the person, then we've given them something even greater, something even more profound. Hey, looks like it's not going great. Okay, to figure this out. So that, again, behooves us to ask, in my life, what's going to be, what will have a lasting effect after I leave this world? What will be the lasting effect of me after I leave this world? Now, of course, if you have children, and their children's children, but our dear Rebbe didn't have any children physically, but the lasting effect is phenomenal. So that's one point that we've mentioned before. Second point is about Gan Eden. Again, to bring out this idea that Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden, the spiritual realm, is not a distant place. It's here. It's a famous story with the Tzemach. There was once a huge fire in the town of Lubavitch, and it burnt down the Beis Medrash, the study hall. And after it was rebuilt, the Tzemach made a Farbrengen. And by the Farbrengen, he asked, do you want to hear Chassidus or you want to hear a story? So Chassidim said they wanted to hear a story. So he told a story. And without going into the length of the story, it was about a Jew who rented out an inn, and the person who he rented out to couldn't make payments, and whatever. He was really bent over backwards to help this guy, but finally, after years, he couldn't make any payment. So he kicked him out finally. After years of not making payment, he bent over backwards. So he passed away, this innkeeper, the owner, and he was coming up to, he was a good Jew. He was a good Jew. Except there was one prosecuting angel that said, wait a second, good Jew, he kicked out a fellow Jew from his business, and da-da-da-da. So the Tzemach said, and he's being held in judgment. And he asked the Chassidim that were there that he was really a good Jew. He was really a good person. He went beyond the letter of the law to try to help this person, and finally, and he deserves, to go into Gan Eden and to get a good judgment. So he looked at all the Chassidim, and what do you say? And so all the Chassidim said, forget what the words were, but something like, to the effect of that he's deserving of a positive judgment. And they said it 3 times, and someone said, okay. The judgment was rendered. Gan Eden it will be. So, someone said a holy person, righteous individual. So Gan Eden wasn't a distant place, but it was something that was happening right then, that he was in judgment above. And they came down here. That was in brief the story. But the point of the story that I wanted to bring out is that the spiritual realm is not something far off and distant. It is here. We're just so physically minded that we're not privy to it. That's a righteous person. A righteous person doesn't have those limitations that we have. I mean, still have limitations because there's still a soul and a body, and that's why we can only get a glimmer from them in this world when they're physically alive. When they're spiritually still connected to them in Gan Eden, we get from the essence. So that's the second point. And the third point is that to gain from them really depends on how much we want to be connected to them. How important it is to us, that connection to the tzaddik. The greater of importance, and that there's a sense of a bond with love, the more we gain from them. Which then is also true with all relationships to teach us. All relationships, right? The more we are spiritually bound up to the person, not physically bound up, not bound to them because merely, of the looks of the person, the things that they do for us, right? And then those things then will be just bound up to, to an external aspect of them. But to be truly bound up to the spirit of the person. And doing that, then we gain from their spirit so much. Okay. Any questions? Any thoughts? I saw some questions over here. Julie's asking about the 36 hidden tzaddikim. Yes, I'll share about that. So there's a famous story of the original Rabbi who was lived in the 1800s, and one of his disciples, who was a simple person, came to him once. He said, "Rabbi, I just learned in the Talmud that it says there's 36 hidden righteous tzaddikim. Well, obviously you're not one of them because everybody knows you're righteous." Says the original Rebbe, says, oy vey zmir, oy vey, poor is me, is that if my righteousness is what you perceive of me. What we perceive of a righteous person is where we're coming from, our limited perspective. We see so little, and of what the truly righteous are. And because of that, even though we might be in the presence of a righteous person, and the Talmud tells us 36 hidden, they're still hidden because their true righteousness is way beyond anything that we perceive. So that's, How many levels of the neshama are there? 5 levels. Again, nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, yechida. 3 of them are inside of us that we experience. Nefesh, ruach, and neshama. Nefesh is connected to the biological part of us and to the physicality of us and to our thought, speech, and action. The ruach is connected to our emotions, our emotions of faith, awe, and love of God, our personality of kindness and gvura and so on and so forth. Neshama is connected to the intelligence. And then chaya is to will, and yechida to the essence of our soul, that are beyond. Would it be correct to say, Asher asks, that we are now aware of a parallel universe that we live in? Yeah. Now we're aware, exactly. Well said, Asher. Yeah, there's a parallel universe. Everybody's looking to see if there's, life in other planets. Well, you have to go look on other planets. Look, right here in Gan Eden, there is life of our loved ones. Their souls are there. Okay, we're not going to find it. We're not going to find it because we're not attuned to it. Okay. Clubhouse, anybody with questions? Margot, please share.
Bye. I have a question.
Sure.
I am reading Viktor Frankl's epic book, Man's Future Meeting. And as I'm reading that, and he describes what could be nothing less than hell on earth, I wonder about someone like him, and likewise my grandfather, blessed memory, who also perished at Auschwitz,
Right.
whether there is some leniency given to those who went through hell on earth, such as those who were in camps.
Yeah.
In terms of what happens, the judgment at the end.
Oh, absolutely. No question about it. As a matter of fact, good point, Margot. The suffering that we go through in this world, that we shouldn't go through any suffering. God should, protect us from. But any of the suffering that we go through in this world mitigates the suffering that we go through afterwards. Now, especially if we get the message for the suffering, meaning we get the message that we need to improve ourselves, we need to do tshuva. So when we are suffering through something and we do tshuva, we do penitence, right? We do penitence. So then that suffering is going to alleviate so much more. Now that's, that's true, obviously with tshuva, because that means you're repairing something here, then you don't have to repair it there. However, the fact of going through something painful is itself a kapara, an atonement, a cleansing process. Now, hopefully with our awareness that we know that it's a cleansing process, so we use it in a healthy way to come closer to Hashem. But even if not, it still serves as a cleansing process. So absolutely correct. That definitely changes things later. And just as parenthetically, and this is difficult, and you might not all appreciate this, but God forbid at the end of life when people often do suffer. So we want to, either the person wants to end the suffering because they can't take the suffering, which I get. I understand. I understand that. However, we're not allowed to end. We're not allowed to take any means to end our life, so we end the suffering. We're not allowed to do anything proactive, at least. Proactive, you're not allowed to, right? And with this idea, then, it helps to at least give some context to it. That suffering that the person is going through now will mitigate many, many times anything that a person has to go through after they leave this world. So, I don't want to call it a blessing, although on one it is, it is. But it's hard to see someone go through that. We don't want to go through that, but that gives at least a healthier context and an appreciation of the end of days and that suffering that people go through. Absolutely. Margot, thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Marcy, please share with us.
It's not a question per se, but I hope if it won't be inappropriate, I would like to share one of my husband's favorite jokes, which is relevant to the topic.
Sure, go ahead.
So
Yeah, we could use something, maybe uplifting from. Go ahead.
There once was a man who had a very difficult wife, and from morning till night she would yell at him and berate him and abuse him. And then one day she came home from the rabbi's class, and she was sweet as pie. And she was sweet all that night, and she spoke gently to him, she spoke very nicely, she did everything for him, she got everything ready, and he didn't want to say anything. But this went on for like 2 or 3 days, and finally he said, What happened? What changed? She said, I went to the rabbi's class, and he taught us that a man with a shrewish wife immediately inherits Gan Eden. I don't want to make it that easy for you.
Yeah, good one. Thank you. Yeah. So, we're going to have our challenges in life. Yes, whether it's coming from someone else, a wife or whoever. Absolutely. We are going to be having challenges, and hopefully they will only bring us to a better place in a healthy way. So the bracha, the blessing is that we should not have to go through any suffering in order that we can grow in life. But as we see, what happens is we become very complacent, and we're not growing unless there's something kind of forcing us at times. That happens. So the blessing is that we should have that growth, and without what we call growing pains. All right, thank you for sharing. That was very nice. Okay, I don't know what's with Facebook. So Vilma and Batya, you didn't have a problem at all throughout Facebook?
No, there was latent issues, some interruptions.
Yeah, there was. For me as well.
Okay, got to figure this out. All right, tomorrow. She's another day. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine. And thanking you all for joining. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. Have a wonderful day. God bless.